He turned water into wine, I turned whiskey into songs. Too many second chances, too many too far gones. Gave me grace along the way, took my heart and led me home. Don't you see? It's a God thing for me. Now I write songs about the heartland. My heartland's in Tennessee.
Welcome to the Heartland Journal podcast with Steve Abramowitz, editor-in-chief of heartlandjournal.com.
Welcome back. I am Steve Abramowitz, and this is the Heartland Journal podcast. Please hit that subscribe button and pass it around. Thanks for doing it. On this show, we are focusing on our nation today with always an interesting person making a positive change in our community and lovers of truth. Today, we are talking with special guest Dr. Shelia Nazarian. As a bona fide girl's girl and industry-renowned female plastic surgeon, Dr. Nazarian, I think I said it wrong, sorry, connects with her patients on a personal and relatable level, delivering expertly tailored treatment plans alongside a warm and emphatic bedside manner. Empathetic bedside manner. I prefer that. Yes, I would prefer that
emphatic
one too. With a calm and inviting demeanor, Dr. Nazarian's patients view her not only as a trusted provider, but as a friend. She is frequently published and invited to speak internationally upwards of 20 times a year. Her nonprofit organization, the Nazarian Institute, helps connect with and educate her colleagues on how to further their professional and personal lives. Additionally, she created theskinspot.com as a curated collection of online medical grade skincare made affordable and understandable. You don't have to live in Beverly Hills to get the full Beverly Hills plastic surgery experience. The doctor's talent and reputation for excellent results attracts patients from all over the world. Beauty with integrity and transparency, her website says. Newsweek named her Best Plastic Surgeon, Real Self Hall of Fame, featured on Netflix's Skin Decision and Fox News, Vogue, and Bazaar magazines. And now here with us today. Hello, how are you today?
I'm exhausted after that intro. I'm going to go take a nap.
Some tongue twisters in there for me too. I'm a little tired as well, but I'm excited to have you on here.
Thank you.
Mostly, well, let's start in the beginning. Your childhood story is incredibly powerful. If my internet sleuthing show prep can be trusted, correct me if I'm wrong, please. You were born in New York to an Iranian Jewish family, returned to Iran during the revolution, and at age 6 were smuggled out to safety. That right?
Yes, pretty much. So yeah, I was born in New York. We had some family that had already left Iran. And so, born there in I was a month old. We went back to Iran. It was 1979. I know I don't look that old, but yes. And the revolution started. Iran-Iraq War started shortly after that. Bombs flying through the air, very similar to what we see over Israel. Sirens went off in the middle of the night. We would run to the windows because we didn't have bomb shelters in Iran, and we would just watch the fireworks, my parents would call it. Bombs did land close by. We could see kind of where the regime was headed in the treatment of girls and women. My parents had 2 daughters. I'm the youngest. And, they just started, my mom especially was like, we got to get out of here. My dad was the chief medical officer of the Shah's Heart Hospital, and anyone related to the Shah was in danger, basically. My dad told me that he would walk to work or go to work and be in fear that he was going to be taken to jail that day or worse. And so eventually he got a tip that he was on the list, to have bad things happen. And so we kind of sped up the smuggling. My mom, my sister, and I went through the desert into Pakistan. We were caught by border police on the Iranian side. So you have to imagine, Steve, this isn't like America where border police is preventing people from coming in. In Iran, the border police prevented people from leaving, right? When you talk about open air prison, that's open air prison.
So the 3 women alone in the desert must have been a nightmare.
Well, I mean, we were, with the smugglers and about 15 other, strangers who were also being smuggled out. And, at that time, Pakistan kind of had lax rules about people coming in, especially from Iran, because they knew so many people were coming in. But it was the Iranian border police that was shooting at us, trying to prevent us from leaving. We were able to get away with some fancy driving of the smugglers, and we were in Pakistan for 3 months. My dad said he was going on a medical conference, so he was able to fly out to Vienna, left me, my mom, and my sister's passports with the government so that we weren't, escaping. And he waited there for 3 months working on getting us visas to get us from Pakistan to Vienna. Once we reunited with him, we were in Vienna for another 3 months waiting for, my parents' asylum applications to go through so that we could get into the US.
Wow. So how did that early experience of upheaval and resilience shape your drive to become a surgeon, an entrepreneur, and what lessons from that time do you still carry into your work with patients today?
I think everything's relative. And so, when I was at Columbia University, which is an absolute hellhole of horribleness and wokeness and anti-Semitism right now, there would be people sitting next to me in $150 Lululemon tights and $8 Starbucks coffee talking about how oppressed they are. And so everything kind of becomes relative when you've lived through true oppression, when you've gone through real asylum processes. Like I hear a lot of people in the US that are here on asylum that go back to their countries for vacation. I can't go back to my country. One of my patients recently went to Iran. They stopped her at the airport and they say, "What's your relation to Dr. Shelia Nazarian?"
Hmm.
I mean, I can't go back, right? That's asylum. That's refugee, not, oh, I'm here in Minnesota, I'm Somalian and I go vacation in Somalia, but I'm here on asylum. No, not the
No,
same.
the system has
So
been
to go
completely.
back to your question, my mom passed away also when I was 16 from breast cancer. And, I came to this country. I
Sorry.
didn't speak English. We had no money. We were living in a two-bedroom apartment, eight of us, with one of my aunts and her family. Um, and so coming from that and knowing it's, work hard, be talented. I was first in the hospital, last to leave during my training. I was pregnant 3 times during that time. I mean, you build grit and resilience because their alternative is to be poor. The alternative is to be in Iran. The alternative is suffering. There is no cushion to fall back on. And so I really feel like I see what's happening in Iran with these protesters. I see what's happening in Israel with 18-year-olds going into Gaza, having snipers shooting at them. And then I see people in the US being afraid of words on social media. I mean, I think it's a perspective
First world
issue.
problems, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so for me, I think I've been kind of uniquely blessed for this moment in time that words don't bother me. I've been through worse, trust me.
Yeah.
I'm brown, I'm female, I'm an immigrant. I built all of this empire on my own. And so what can you tell me about privilege? Nothing.
Yeah.
If
Like
I grew
Esther,
up
like Queen Esther, your time
yeah,
comes
and also
now.
like
Yeah.
I grew up here, I never heard from my parents, "Oh, you're female, so you can't do this, this, and this. Oh, you're brown, you don't speak English, so you'll never make it." Like I never heard those from them. They're like, "We're in America. It's possible," because in Iran it wasn't. Truly, it wasn't possible. Here, anything's possible.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the messaging I was getting. And it's really important for me to relay that messaging to my students and my children, who I have 3 teenagers now,
Yep.
that you can do anything in this country. This is America. And I think that's such a healthier, mentality for our children to have rather than like what we've delved into where it's like, oh, you are this, then you are doomed to fail, so don't even try. Or, you need you have ADHD. Everybody has ADHD now, Steve, and they're just like
Yeah.
bragging about it on TikTok. I have severe ADHD and da 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 da. Like in Iran, if you had a mental problem, no one would marry you. Like you don't go like brag about your mental problems. Like
Right, right. The
so
victimhood
there's
of
a lot of
America.
stuff that makes no sense here
Yeah.
to me. But I think, I can be used as an example maybe of somebody who's really kind of, achieved the American dream from nothing And there's a crazy story I have to tell you too, and I just found this out very recently, about a year ago. So I had RFK at my house for when he announced that he was running for president. We did an event. I'm part of a group called YPO, and so we did a question answer kind of thing with a bunch of entrepreneurs. And I found out a month before that he was renting from the Shah of Iran. So imagine, like, I'm interviewing a Kennedy. To the Iranians, the Kennedys are the royal family of America. Okay. So I'm interviewing a Kennedy, and I'm an immigrant that came here with nothing. I mean, if that isn't the American dream, if that doesn't show you what's possible here in America, I don't know what will.
That is a beautiful illustration. Absolutely. So, interestingly enough, your name means from Nazareth, just
Right.
like a guy named
Or,
Jesus.
or I mean, it means like yun means from, right? But nazar means point of view. And also in certain cultures, it means evil eye. And in other
Mm,
cultures, it means knowledge.
mm,
So it's really interesting. It's like knowledge can be used for good or for evil. It could be the evil eye, or it could be knowledge and having a point of view and something to say.
mm. Well, the train of thought I wanted to go with is why do you think so many Jews and Christians don't understand we're the same chosen people from Nazareth?
They don't understand. I think that there is an anti-Semitism that's leading to kind of like a revisionist kind of history. Oh, we're the chosen people. Those weren't the real Jews. We're the real chosen people. This is all distraction to me from someone who's seen Iran and what happened there when the socialists joined hands with the Islamists. That's the enemy. Social that Red Green Alliance is the enemy. Everything else is a distraction and is going to degrade the strength of the United States of America and allow the socialist Islamists to take over.
Mm,
So I don't think, at least in my opinion, maybe you'll correct me, Steve, I don't think the majority of Christians think that. I mean, you just have to read the Bible and you'll know. I'm good friends with the people who started Christians United for Israel, and certainly they're they're preaching all day long, if you hate the Jews, you're not a Christian. If you don't support the Jews, you're not a Christian. So I would say the majority of Christians actually don't feel that way. Just like on the left, I don't think the majority of the left are like Ilhan Omar, but she's the loudest. I think that on the right, the vast majority are very, intelligent and know their Bible and know the roots of America. But it's just those loud, like five or six people, and they're like, useful idiots surrounding them that kind of
hmm
fit the description you just gave.
Little they know that after the revolution, all those supporters, usually the university kids, they got killed by
Yeah.
the,
So
the
what
thing.
what
So,
Islamists do is they invented intersectionality. So what they do is they latch on to the useful idiots. In that case, in Iran, it was the university students who were the socialist communist group of Iran. And after they got into power, they killed all of them.
exactly.
So
That's a
they
good,
latch on to whoever will get them the caliphate, and then they destroy them.
not unlike the Bolsheviks as well.
Correct.
Why do you think Persians or Iranians, all the ones that I ever met when I lived in Southern California, wanted to be called Persians? After the revolution, chose LA to move to. Is there a particular draw for them in your city?
So I think well there's a faction in New York as well for sure in Great Neck.
As big?
It's the second big. It's after here, yeah. And then there's a little faction in Atlanta. But I think what happened for our family is so we sort of went to live with our family in New York. I think winter hit and we were like, no, thank you. And then so we moved to the better weather. I think that's probably it, but typically what happened is there was one kind of like, pioneer that moved to LA and then all of his family followed. And then there's another pioneer that moved to Atlanta or another pioneer that moved to New York and sort of the
Okay.
the extended family would be like, "Oh, well,
Yeah.
we know somebody there. They can tell us, what to do when we get there, and they can support us for a little while until we get on our feet."
Not unlike the Irish and the Chinese in the
Yeah,
early days of
exactly.
America. Okay, so LA was the weather like anyone else, and it wasn't specifically like, well, arts and entertainment or defense
No,
business.
no,
Okay. It
not at
was the
all.
same reason as I did. I wanted the
I
sun,
didn't even
so
know what arts and entertainment were, Steve. Like all I knew is there's three jobs as far as I knew growing up. It was doctor, lawyer, like dentist, and maybe engineer. I've seen my patients that are in the industry now, and I'm like, wait, you design the sets for what? And then who? And then it's like so niche. And I'm like, how did you even know that was a job? Like, how do you even
Interesting.
pursue that? So for us as immigrants, we didn't even know any of that existed. It was like you're a doctor or you're not a doctor. Which one? You want to be a doctor? You want to be a winner? Or you want to do something else?
Or
Pick.
not.
Yeah.
So the current events in Iran this year, do you think the 1978 revolution might finally come to an end and liberate the people, or are
I
you
do. I
pessimistic?
do. I do. And I'll tell you why. By the way, I didn't in any of the other kind of
Up,
protests that have come up in recent years. What's
uprisings,
different about this one is a few things, and then one really important thing. It's not just women, it's women and men. It's not just a few provinces, it's every province. It's not just one economic class, it's all economic classes. And the biggest differentiator is that our president is President Donald J. Trump.
Mhm.
Whereas Biden supported the regime, took sanctions off of them, enriched them to the tune of billions. Whereas Barack Obama sent them a plane full of pallets of cash, $1.5 billion. Donald J. Trump is not gonna do any of that stuff. And that's the biggest differentiator.
Mhm.
And why I think with the first three things I mentioned, and then finally the president of the United States, this time it's going to be different. And I do think that we're going to see regime change. Now, with that said, I don't think that the next day is going to be flowers and roses. There's 90 million people in Iran. About 15% to 20% of them don't want regime change. They're Islamists. So that's 18 million people.
It's
So
bigger than
as,
Iraq. It's
as
bigger
we
than
know,
de-Baathification. Yeah, bigger than
yeah, we
Iraq.
have to do a denazification of Iran, and that's going to take years.
So the first time I heard of you was actually last summer. Never Again is now.
Hmm.
City of Beverly Hills marks Jewish American Heritage Month with panel on confronting anti-Semitism led by Mayor Sharona Nazarian. Any
Yes.
relation to her?
So her husband is like my second or third cousin.
I'll be
And we
damned.
were friends and through another side of my family since we were young.
How does she feel about Karen Bass, LA's current mayor and Cuban Marxist?
I mean, obviously, I'm not going to speak for somebody else, but I think in general, Karen Bass is just a placeholder. What I've noticed just like Kamala Harris was going to be just a placeholder. They're not the ones making the decisions. There is a global push or somebody else or a group of other people that are sort of dictating what they want, America to be or not exist. And these people are just placeholders to talking heads to tell the other minions and useful idiots what to do and how to think.
Mm. I had a pastor on here a couple days ago that is a lot like you, born in Iran, fled the
Mhm,
revolution, a little
mhm,
older, grew
mhm.
up there in the 80s and 90s in Southern California, and now ministers to Muslims to bring them to Jesus and Christianity. When you speak on these issues, do you find it harder to bridge the cultural divide between Jews or Muslims?
You mean, say that again, like bring Jews to think how I think or Muslims to think how?
Well, you speak out quite a bit on issues like anti-Semitism and all the rest. Who's listening to you least, the Muslims or the Jews?
Oh, the Muslims. The
What are
Muslims.
you running into when you find this?
It's very difficult. And I grew up in Iran. I know what's taught in the schools. I know what is said at the dinner tables. I've read the Quran, by the way. When I was at Columbia University, I studied Islam. So I've read the Quran. I know what it says. It's not the religion of peace. Starts out okay, doesn't end okay, but in Islam, what comes later in the Quran trumps what comes earlier in the Quran, and it's not peaceful. And parts of the Bible aren't peaceful either, but we don't see people screaming God is great and then beheading people these days, right?
Hmm.
So knowing that how they've grown up, a lot of them, and what is discussed at the dinner tables. Jews are this, Jews are that, Jews did this, Jews control this, all the tropes. And what I was taught in Iran in school, death to America, death to Israel, since preschool or before that, even earliest I could think of. Even my own colleagues, Steve, physicians, started saying, genocide, apartheid, all of this stuff about Israel and the same tropes about Jews and skin harvesting and like weird stuff. And they're physicians. So you would
Mm.
think a physician who is so fact-based and so science-based, how could they say these sorts of things? Well, 4 years of medical school is not going to negate a lifetime of what you heard growing up since you were zero. And so we have to be really honest about conversations and prejudices and actually what it does say in the Quran to do to Jews and Christians, by the way.
Yeah.
And if we don't speak honestly about issues, just like in medicine, if you don't have the correct diagnosis, how can you fix it? How can you apply a remedy? You
Some of
can't.
these same doctors are the ones who not that long ago were saying that a man could have a baby or
Oh my
women
God,
should
don't
be
get me started.
right. You know what I'm talking about.
No,
Well,
it's crazy. In
and
medical schools,
LA
they were
is an
teaching the medical students men can have babies. And they're
and
calling me being like, "What do I do?" I'm like, "You speak up."
the lawyers too. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a neurosis. But so LA is a very interesting place, very commercial, very liberal. Do you find it hurts you professionally or personally to speak like this, dare I say,
I thought it would.
conservatively?
I thought it would. And, about 4 years ago, actually, no, 5 years ago now, it was 2021 during the Sheikh Jarrah conflict in Israel, where I first saw my colleagues who had less followers than me. And they were saying the same, apartheid, genocide, colonialist state, all those things. And I'm like, you know what? My parents didn't sacrifice everything to bring me to this country for me not to have freedom of speech. One. And two, I have more followers than you, so fuck you. Watch me go. And I have to tell you, I was posting 8 hours a day in addition to my full-time job. And I thought I was going to lose everything. I thought I was going to not have any more patience. And I said, you know what? I came here, I built it, I did everything I said I was going to do. And if I lose it all, so be it. And in the first 30 minutes, I lost 3,000 followers of my
Mm.
first post. But you know what? It just kept going. And I was looking back on it, Steve, I think I was in survival mode because it was like deja vu of what happened in Iran happening here. And I said, you know what? I can't let America go down. I don't want to move. I don't want to move.
There is nowhere to
And
move. Yeah.
yeah, and what happened, and I want your listeners to hear this. I didn't lose everything. The exact opposite happened. Everyone knew who I was. I don't have to walk on eggshells. I say exactly what I think. My patients say exactly what they think. I have meaningful conversations all day long. It prevented me from being burned out as a physician. Now I'm operating on world treasures of humans, people that are the most famous of the famous in their category, politicians, um, just having the most amazing conversations and learning so much from my patients all day long. So, one of my followers said something. She said, God rewards the authentic. And I really believe that God has. And to share another story with you, I was telling this because I was speaking for Christians United for Israel a couple of years ago. And Sandra Parker Hagee, Pastor Hagee's daughter, said, you know what, this reminds me of the story of Abraham. And I said, how so? And she said, when Abraham prayed for hundreds of years to have a son, he finally had a son. He did it. And then what did God ask him to do? Sacrifice his son. So she's like, you know what? Not only were you willing to sacrifice everything you'd worked your entire life for, but just like Abraham, God told him at the very end, no, you get to keep your son, and I'm going to give you all of Israel.
You're blessed. Yeah.
And so I feel blessed beyond measure.
Mm.
And if I had to go back and do it all over again, yes, it was really scary. I was waking up with anxiety. I've never had anxiety in my life ever before. But I pushed through it because I was in survival mode and it was my core values. And gutturally, I just couldn't stop even if I wanted to. And I feel blessed beyond measure. You wouldn't have
Mm.
me on your podcast right now if I was just a plastic surgeon. I'm sure of it.
Well, the Jewish Journal said your activism began in 2021
Mhm.
following the events in Israel October 7th and the
Mhm.
conflict with Hamas.
That
Until
was
then,
2 years after, actually.
oh, you're right.
Yeah.
So you were just a busy mother, three kids at the time, 13, 16, 17, and
Yep.
you'd made a name for yourself as a successful plastic surgeon and the host of the Netflix series Skin Decision Before and After. So you had a lot to lose,
I did.
but
I
you
mean, we had an
said
Emmy
nope.
nominated show. I had a ton of followers on Instagram already. I had an empire to lose
1.7 million followers, I think.
back then.
Yeah,
Now it's more.
now it's more. Yeah, just going by the article. So good for you.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so this what I find the most fascinating is that I would think, because I'm a common sense kind of guy, it's like, hey, the
Hmm.
simpler, the more I can retain it. They should all be like you. All the doctors should be like you. All the women should be like you. All the expats from Iran should be like you. But you went to Columbia University, which is the worst of the free speech and anti-Semitism universities. University of Washington's up there. Stanford's pretty
Yeah.
bad.
Yep.
UCLA's had some embarrassment. My old college, USC, your old college, USC, same thing.
Mhm.
Do you have opinions about all the anti-Semitism we've seen on campuses? And do you find it familiar from what was going on in Iran, leading up to the Shah's fall?
No, I mean, I was young when I left Iran, but I've had to read up on this stuff because I speak on it. And it was the same thing. It was, started on the college campuses in Iran. And Iran is the one that they found was funding the college campuses here in the US. So they were like, the formula worked here. We can't win via bullets and drones against the US. Let's invade them from within. And it starts where the thoughts start, which is the college campuses. So they were actually funding the college protests. These REI tents that were in the encampments are $500 or $600 each. These college students didn't pay for them. Who paid for them? And so, it was deja vu. I was seeing it happening again. And that's why, by the way, a lot of the kids that you saw testifying, the college kids that you saw testifying in front of Congress about the anti-Semitism on campus were Persian Jews.
I
At
knew they
least
were
half
Jews.
of
I didn't
them.
know they were Persian.
At
Yeah.
least, yeah,
Yeah.
they were Persian Jews. And it's because what didn't happen like the Holocaust to our grandparents. It happened to either us or our parents. It's very fresh. We came here like 47 years ago.
Yeah.
And back then it was, 43 years ago. It's within our lifetime. And so again, there are a lot of similarities with the whole college campus is starting there and spreading everywhere else because that's exactly how it worked in Iran and they're exporting that formula here to America.
Yeah. And the sad thing is that it's repeating itself. Either they just didn't know the history or they're susceptible to that message because we should know better. Like you're saying, that was my point. Most people, they actually blame Jimmy Carter for the
Oh
fall
yeah.
of
Oh my God.
Iran.
Carter's like the C word for Iranians.
And the Democratic Party, of course, certainly has embraced the CARE, Islamic
Hmm.
immigrants, Linda
Hmm.
Sarsour types,
Hmm.
causes like Somalia.
Right.
Do you have an opinion on the Republicans losing ground amongst Muslims that dominate in places like Dearborn, Michigan, and Minneapolis?
Well, they're going to lose ground against the Islamists, but who cares? There's a lot of Muslims here in America, Steve, that their families were butchered by the Ayatollah, butchered because they somehow were connected to the Shah. A lot of them went to Germany and a lot of them came to the US. So the moderate Muslims, who I would like to see speaking up more and saying, these people don't speak for me, or I don't agree, like the Iranians are doing now. The Iranians, the most popular figure in Iran right now is Netanyahu.
He's not very popular at home, so that's good that he's liked somewhere.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
he's beloved in Iran,
yeah, that's
followed by
great.
Trump.
That's amazing. Well, that's good.
So yeah, so I mean, we would like to see more Muslims like in the UAE, more Muslims like in Saudi, more Muslims like in Iran, that say, you know what, I want to be a good person, I want to pray, but I don't follow everything it says in the Quran like beheading people or,
Burning
marrying a
churches and
nine-year-old
yeah,
or, things like that, which
yes,
is, a lot of Muslims here.
which is antithetical to Western civilization. Absolutely.
Exactly. Like I came here and I assimilated. I'm going to assimilate. I'm not going to
Which
try
is
to create a caliphate here.
that is the
Like in Dearborn,
democratic
Michigan, they're
experience.
not here to assimilate. They're here to create a caliphate. Big
You
difference.
you told Fox News that the Iran regime responds solely to force, expressing your support for Israel. Are they willing to be wiped off the earth to hold their power?
Yes. Oh, yeah. They consider that a sacrifice. They consider that an honor. Death is an honor, martyrdom. Jihad and martyrdom are the highest honor.
And the
And that's how
people,
antithetical their values are to our Judeo-Christian values here. The most sanctified thing for us is life.
right?
The most precious thing to them is death.
Hard to assimilate. You're absolutely right. Hard to communicate as well. And
Mhm.
48 years is a long time to keep the people down like they do. You said 90 million. I think that's about right. And
Mhm.
10% of them are ruling them or suppressing them, holding them down. You were able to go into medical field once you got to America. How
Yep.
do people in Iran without smart women like you able to be free to think and learn to
Oh,
treat
they're
others?
very
How do they
smart.
survive? But how
Oh,
do they
they're
survive
super
without,
smart. That's the whole thing. They're super smart.
but are they allowed to be
Um,
doctors?
yes, super educated,
Oh,
super smart. Um, and that's, I think, one of the difficult things about holding them down. But on the flip side, I think that's one of the good things that differentiates Iran from Iraq or Iran from Afghanistan, in that it is a highly intelligent, highly educated population, including the women. And so they know better.
even
And
after 48
also,
years of repression, they're
yeah,
still
no, it's still within our
cosmopolitan.
lifetime. You have to remember that. They know what their parents wore when they were younger.
Okay.
The photo albums are still there. You know, it was a westernized country. There was many skirts and fashion and food and jewelry and nightlife, and it was a westernized country.
Yeah.
And so they haven't forgotten, and they're smart enough to be able to get Starlink when they need it and get information from the Western world. There's rappers in Iran. I mean, I just shared a rap song against the regime, and they're doing the same dances we're doing here. I mean, they are very capable of being an amazing ally to the United States. They
I
want a
remember when the regime
democracy.
was so angry when Barbie was making some inroads into
Yeah,
Iran society. And
yeah.
numbers are pretty hard to come by, obviously, in the West, but an NGO reported yesterday that more than 4,500 people had been killed. PBS said 3,117. Time Magazine said at least 5,000. CBS said over 12,000. So who really
Yeah.
knows? Are you optimistic that the theocracy, not just the regime, but the actual theocracy will fall in Qatar, aka Muslim Brotherhood, who they won't have a proxy anymore, and maybe the leaders of Sharia, the minority religion in the Middle East, will decline, and Sunni, which I think is 90% of the Muslim world, will
Mhm.
rise. And what would that look like? They have their problems too with Wahhabism, but my understanding is it's not a apocalyptic in its moderate teachings,
You're
whereas the
right. It's
10% that are
less
Shiite are way more radical. Do I have that
correct.
right? Okay.
Yes, that's
So
correct.
what would it look like if there was no longer a theocracy in Iran
I
calling the
think that it
shots?
would be a lot more peaceful there. They are definitely the instigators, and they do use the Shias in Iran do use the Sunnis like Hamas as proxies. And Hamas, Hezbollah, clans in other Arab surrounding countries, the Houthis, um, they're not going to stop because they believe their religion is we must destroy the little devil and the big devil. So they won't stop because even to die, to go down, to take every Iranian with them, they see as a noble sacrifice. And it's hard to explain it to Westerners because you would think every ruler would want what's best for their people.
No,
They don't want
like
what's best for their people.
no,
They
that's martyrdom.
they want martyrdom. Exactly. Um, and they've shown us time and time again. And also, like, sometimes people think, like, oh, they're transferring their money out or like they want to leave. Some of them will, but a lot of them won't. And a lot of them will go down with the ship because they think that's what will get them to heaven.
Mm,
So they're willing to sacrifice as many lives as it takes because the ultimate goal is not having a healthy, well-fed, economically sustainable economy. It's the
right,
ultimate goal is a global caliphate.
right. It's not capitalism per se.
No.
It's a socialism of theocracy. Let's shift gears a little bit back to you. You started with a BA in economics from Columbia. We talked about those dirty dogs over there. You went to
Hmm.
Albert Einstein College of Medicine, completed a very rigorous plastic surgery residency at USC, my alma mater, fight on,
Hmm.
and even earned a master's in medical management along the way. What made you pivot from an initial interest in orthopedics, I guess, to plastic surgery? And how has that unique blend of clinical expertise and business acumen helped you build not just a practice, but an entire ecosystem, building the Nazarian Institute for your skincare line?
Yeah, so basically I did wood shop in the fourth grade and I really liked it. I liked creating the blueprint and I liked building the shelf
That's
with,
awesome.
my hands. And so I said to me, maybe I want to be an architect or maybe I want to be an orthopedic surgeon because they work with hammers and nails and I had to be a doctor because that was the only job that existed in the world as we touched upon. And so I started thinking about architecture, and they don't really build, they just sort of design. I really wanted to use my hands all day. So I started following around an orthopedic surgeon, and in general, I was following out a joints guy. So, replacing knee replacements mostly. And it was very cookie cutter. Literally, you'd put something, you'd cut around it, and another piece would fit into it. And I wanted something that was a little bit more creative. So one of my friends was like, well, why don't you look into plastic surgery? So then I started following a plastic surgeon around, and it was kind of perfect for me. And, you know, I had like a natural talent in it, I guess, ever since I was young. Like even when we were escaping from Iran, my suitcase was made out of duct tape and paper bags that I'd
Really?
made myself.
Oh my
And
God.
so my mom would always call it the expert in useless things is the direct translation. But I think that it was kind of making, giving me a little practice in cutting and sewing and art. Yeah, plastic surgery was kind of great for me. And then when I got out, I kind of in my brain wanted to be a one-stop shop. And also, like, no one knew who I was. So I said, you know what, maybe they'll let me laser them if they don't let me operate on them right away. And so I started my collection of lasers and collection of injectables and offerings. And then, started getting a name and, getting referrals from previous patients to, their family members and so on, and slowly building this practice. The Nazarian Institute was mainly a conference that I had, and now I'm writing, a lot of articles and education. It's basically an educational nonprofit. And I started out teaching other physicians about business because I went to business school and I was an economics major. I started teaching them about business because they don't teach us that. And the first day was very much about social media and marketing and, knowing how to read your profit and loss statement. And the second day kind of started morphing into why are you holding yourself back? Like I could teach you everything I can, but if you don't post that Instagram post because you said, or you don't think you look good, or what will people think about you, you're holding yourself back. And so that sort of it became almost like an internal journey on the second day. And we had that conference for 5 years, and every year somebody would say they were suicidal and the conference saved their life. So it
Wow.
was it was really meaningful. Now what I've sort of pivoted it to is writing articles. Currently, I'm writing a book about an alternative to DEI because I am trying to save my own kids on college campuses. So it's called Detail, which is a diversity of thought and life experience. And so I do share a little bit of my story, and I do have a framework that is in a diversity statement people can adopt that will actually advance our country forward instead of breaking us all apart.
Oh, that is an important, well-needed book for sure.
Yes, yes. And so I'm working on that right now. And um,
And you've built
so
this
yeah,
massive social media presence. You
yeah,
said over 2 million followers, and you use your platforms to educate on innovations and aesthetics while also
yeah.
speaking out on
No, I have
issues like,
all different ones. Yeah, I speak out on my main one, which is Dr. Shelia Nazarian on Instagram. I'm also getting a little following on X. Elon Musk retweeted me yesterday. I was
yes, I
like,
saw
what
that.
is happening?
You must watch this
Um,
show and know because I promoted that you were coming on.
yeah,
So
I was like,
how do you balance being a public figure, an
mhm.
influencer, and a practicing surgeon? And what advice would you give to other professionals in medicine or beauty who want to leverage digital platforms authentically?
Mhm.
And you've obviously won the cancel culture game, but did they come after you? Have you suffered some cancel culture? Not the
I
3,000
always
followers,
say
but
people can only cancel you if you give into it. But if you keep going, you'll attract your tribe. And
Mhm.
so, have been canceled, is because you allowed yourself to be canceled. It's because you shut up. But if you keep talking, you will change minds and you will shift the culture, and you will attract people that, share your core values, and it just makes your life a lot more enjoyable.
That is true. That is
Yeah.
good. And on Skin Decision, before and after, viewers saw the transformative power of plastic surgery, not just physically, but emotionally and psychologically. That's interesting. From your perspective, as both the surgeon and the host, what's one of the most meaningful patient stories that stayed with you? And how do you approach consultations to ensure people are pursuing changes for the right reasons?
Yeah, so the show is on Netflix. It's still on there. It's very different from all the other plastic surgery shows, and then it's very docu-style, following patients around, seeing why they're getting plastic surgery. And the first episode, the patient was shot by her husband who tried to kill her. She was shot 14 times, I believe. And so every time someone would see a scar, they'd be like, "Oh, what happened, honey?" And she'd have to like relive it. So it was just sort of minimizing scars on her body surgically and through lasers. And, it's a very insane story. But there's other people on the show also who maybe had quadruplets and they haven't felt comfortable in their own bodies to be intimate with their partners. Or acne scarring. I mean, that can be huge. You wear your face; it's the first thing people see when you start talking to them, and the effects that can have. So it was a range of problems, I would say, on the show, but we really tried to educate on when you need surgery, when you don't need surgery. And really, I think the show really elevated the specialty, gave permission to a lot of people to take care of themselves, where they felt like, oh, if I do this, I'm just being vain. But when you listen to these stories and then you see the impact that the improvements made on these people's psyche and lives, and how they're able to now do more for others because they have more to give, I think it really changed not just how people perceive plastic surgery, but just the it really gave a little bit of integrity to the specialty, where I think other shows haven't focused on that.
Yeah,
So
I was hoping you wouldn't say it was influenced by the TV show Nip Tuck. So that was good what
no,
you
no, it's
said.
like the opposite of all of that. It's a real, it's it's a very emotional show. I always joke you're gonna cry for 8 hours if you watch all 8 episodes,
Yeah.
because you feel for these people and you understand. Oh my God, like I'm so glad plastic surgeons exist to help these people.
Well, that's a great segue for my last question. So looking ahead with trends like non-surgical treatments, regenerative medicine, and the rise of think big entrepreneurship through your Nazarian Institute,
Yeah.
what excites you most about the future of plastic surgery and aesthetic medicine, and what do you hope the next generation of surgeons and entrepreneurs takes from your journey?
I think that this pendulum has kind of swung. I'd say 5 years ago, there were so many technological advances that were non-surgical that were really exciting. Now I think the pendulum's kind of swinging back to surgery. I think that in my practice, I've always been about natural results and making sure no one looks crazy or like an alien, but it just looks God-given and you just look like you did like a juice cleanse and you look great and healthy. And that sort of served me well. And I think we are in the season of that, as opposed to like big butts and big boobs and big lips and big everything. Now I think people just want to look fit and healthy,
Mm,
which is what I've
mhm.
always tried to do and always tried to make people look like. So I feel like I'm having my moment. But I think regardless of where plastic surgery goes, I think it's really important that people put out there what they want to attract. So for me, I get the most normal people, Steve. Like I get very accomplished, happy people that just need help with this or that. They're not coming for me because they're narcissists. They're not coming to me because they want to look like a different person. And so again, just like sort of I start speaking my mind and attracting my tribe, you want to also speak with your results to attract people that enjoy your aesthetic and share your aesthetic values as well. And that way, like what I've always put out there is natural results, normal people, normal results, and I've attracted those types of people. So again, I really enjoy my job because I'm around people I enjoy being around. So be authentic, not just in your voice and politics, but be authentic in what you put out on social media so that you attract the practice and you attract the people that you want to attract in your lives. And maybe that goes for friendships too. Maybe that goes for, I don't know, any aspect of your life. Be authentic, put out what you want to attract. And so that's the lesson that I would say. The other thing I would say to female surgeons is nothing replaces a family. And so it doesn't matter if you're the best plastic surgeon in the world, if you're going home to your cats, I don't think that it's the most fulfilling thing that you could have done with your life. So if you have to choose one, choose family. But if you do choose a career, make sure it's not instead of a family.
Amen to that. All right. Well, good. We won't blame you for Madonna or whatever Priscilla Presley did to
Nope, none of
themselves.
that.
All
My
right.
patients, you wouldn't even know they did anything. You're just going to be like, damn, they look good.
There you go. Well, Dr. Nazarian, I want to thank you for your time, for everything you're doing, especially speaking your mind. You're a patriot. Tell our listeners where they can find out more about you and follow your social media. And you said your book is coming out. What's the title and how are they going to be able to find it?
The title's going to be Detail. I'm still, that's like DTALE. I'm still working on it. Hopefully we'll be done, very soon. You can follow me on Instagram at Dr. Shelia Nazarian, on X at Dr. Nazarian. And then from there, you'll find all my websites and all of my other pages.
Very cool. All right. Thanks again for coming on with us. Hang on, everybody. I will be right back.
Now I write songs about the heartland. My heartland's in Tennessee.
Thanks for coming back. Please subscribe to heartlandjournal.com. Email address is all we ask, and never miss a new show. It's free, as is Substack. Now the Heartland Journal news. Fraud, cash flows, and hawala. As a government watchdog dedicated to exposing the underbelly of systemic corruption, that's me, I've long warned that the greatest threat to our republic come not from overt enemies, but from insidious networks operating in plain sight. Recent revelations on X from investigative journalists and citizen watchdogs paint a damning picture of fraud, unregulated cash movements, and a sprawling nonprofit sector that functions as a shadow government, drawing from pivotal posts detailing hawala money brokers, the staggering scale of Somali-linked fraud, and the trillion-dollar NGO complex. It's clear we're facing a multifaceted crisis. This isn't just about stolen tax dollars. It's about the erosion of accountability, borders, and democratic control. First, consider the alarming mechanisms of hawala, an ancient informal value transfer system rooted in Muslim cultures, now exploited to siphon billions out of the U.S. economy. Hawala operates on an honor system where brokers physically mule cash across borders, bypassing formal banking channels. Imagine this. You hand $10,000 to a broker in Minneapolis to send to Somalia or Iraq. They take a cut, coordinate with a counterpart abroad, and the recipient gets the equivalent locally. Periodically, the brokers settle up among themselves, often with pallets of cash shipped internationally. This isn't folklore. It's happening at scale in America. There's a diagram which illustrates it perfectly. Hawaladar A receives dollars from a sender and promises delivery. Hawaladar B pays out euros or local currency to the recipient. Debts are balanced later, all off the books. Curtis at WC Dispatch X posts reveals what we've known about this for decades, yet allowed it to flourish without oversight. Why? Because it thrives in communities with limited U.S. banking access, like Somali immigrants in Minnesota. But here's the kicker. Banks must be complicit. To amass tons of cash for export, these brokers withdraw massive sums, triggering no alarms? Kurt points to one broker tied to a Minnesota state chartered bank and notes that wiring in Somali context is euphemism for hawala. This system isn't benign. It's a pipeline for laundering defrauded American tax dollars. We've identified networks, but they're still operating. As a watchdog, I demand shut them down now. Every undeclared pallet undermines our financial sovereignty and funds who knows what abroad, Kurt said. Building on this, the cash problem is what's being dubbed Somali fraud, a scheme allegedly defrauding hundreds of millions from federal programs like child nutrition aid. The numbers are jaw-dropping. $700 million moved in 2 years, equating to about $1 million burned daily for 730 days. This isn't petty theft. It's an industrial operation requiring a relentless supply of physical cash. Breaking down the impossibilities, Bank branches don't have infinite vaults. Cash is ordered through Federal Reserve districts, tracking meticulously to detect anomalies. In Minnesota alone, a state with a modest banking footprint, this volume would strain logistics from armored cars to Fed replenishment. Pushing $1 million daily through one or two states like Minnesota and Ohio, where $130 million reportedly flowed to Minnesota, would create glaring patterns. Repetition is the enemy of fraudsters, yet this is unchecked for years. Kurt's analysis concludes it must involve a multi-state network, at least 5 to 8 states, to dilute the signal. Rotate banks, geographies, and Fed districts to make the flow background noise. This redundancy ensures continuity, avoiding hotspots that trigger investigations. It's sophisticated, implying insiders in banking and possibly government. Tie this back to Hawala. These fraud proceeds aren't wired, they're muled out via brokers. Airports see declarations, but declarations create trails unless the system is rigged to ignore them. We've seen reports of couriers flying with $250,000 suitcases from Phoenix, claiming family remittances to Sudan and Somalia via Dubai. If this is registered, who's registering? The implications are profound. Our tax system is being systematically extracted with banks complicit and regulators asleep. This isn't just Minnesota's problem, it's a national security breach. Now, zoom out to the revelations, an explosive X article by @DefiantlyFree, known as Insurrection Barbie, which frames these frauds within a broader NGO complex acting as a shadow government, titled The NGO Empire, $14.1 trillion in the shadows. The piece argues that nonprofits have amassed $14.1 trillion in assets, more than many nations' GDPs, while wielding unelected power. 0 votes, no oversight, yet they shape policy on immigration aid and social services. Funded by government grants, your taxes and mine, and elite donors, these entities enforce ideologies without accountability. As one commentator put it, this isn't charity, it's a shadow government enforced through NGOs that answer to no one but donors and ideology. Connect the dots. In Somali fraud, NGOs and nonprofits often administer the defrauded programs, daycares, food aid, refugee services, autism. Minnesota's scandal involves entities like Feeding Our Future, an NGO indicted for siphoning $250 million in COVID aid child nutrition funds. These nonprofits receive billions in federal dollars, distribute them with minimal scrutiny, and enable cash conversions for export via Hawala. The article calls for audits, defunding, and dismantling. If an NGO takes government money, it's not non-governmental. Treat it as a contractor with full transparency. Dark money flows in, influence flows out, eroding sovereignty. Think George Soros-funded groups pushing open borders, or Qatar-linked investors allegedly tied to riots and real estate grabs, as speculated in related threads. This complex launders not just cash, but power, turning republics into oligarchies via paperwork. Together, these posts reveal a symbiotic monster. Fraud schemes generate illicit cash, Hawala exports it undetected, and the NGO empire provides the facade of legitimacy. Somali communities, brought in via refugee programs run by NGOs, become hubs for exploitation. Banks facilitate withdrawals, airports wave through couriers, and regulators look away. The cost? Billions, trillions in stolen taxes, weakened borders, and funded extremism abroad. It's not red versus blue. Ohio's involvement proves that. It's about hiding in plain sight. Just in the last 2 years, cash went through the Minneapolis airport headed for Somalia. And as early as 2018, a local news outlet has noticed $100 million a year was sent out through that airport. A former TSA agent in Minneapolis alleges that Somalis were waved through airport security with suitcases full of cash and passports. Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport is staffed by many Somalis in the area. Records show Minneapolis Airport TSA staff is 98% Somali, including airport managers, staff, and ground crew boss. It goes deep. As a watchdog, I urge immediate action. President Trump and DOJ must prioritize a full audit of NGOs receiving federal funds. St. Paul Airport is a national security threat. You can carry any amount of cash on a plane internationally, but you must declare any amount exceeding $10,000. Enforce that. Tax remittances, ban hawala operations lacking stringent oversight, expand investigations to 5 to 8 states, subpoena banks, and track cash flows. Prosecute enablers from brokers to complicit officials, reclaim the $14.1 trillion shadow economy, tax it, regulate it, or dissolve it. Citizens demand transparency. Contact your reps. Support journalists like Barbie and Kurt and me. This rot festers because we allow it, expose it, excise it, or watch our republic dissolve not in fire, but in untraceable cash and unchecked power. That's it for this episode. Thank you, Dr. Shelia Nazarian, for coming here and showing us the American dream is alive and well, even for legal immigrants that came here for a better life. I'd say hers has been wonderful. Thanks for coming on the show and sharing it with us. This is goodbye for now. I'm your host, Steve Abramowitz, editor-in-chief of HeartlandJournal.com. Peace and our time. Esther 4, and glory to God.
It's a long way to Nashville from that Napa Valley vine. Put me on a road less traveled. Lord, now I know why. God knew I'd get there in His perfect time.
Heartland Journal Podcast is the media property of HeartlandJournal.com, where you can find news stories, commentary, and content serving the heartland of America. Any views or opinions represented on the podcast are personal and belong solely to the creator and do not represent those of the people, institutions, or organizations that the creator may or may not be associated with in professional or personal capacity unless explicitly stated.
Now I write songs about the heartland. My heartland's in Tennessee. Now I write songs about the heartland. My heartland's in Tennessee.